Previously on The Walking Dead.
What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Mustard, back with another video. And today we're here to continue the Walking Dead series. Here's season 2. As y'all saw, my boy Lee, he dies, and you end up finding Krista and Omid. I'm not gonna lie, Krista and Omid, they don't really last long in the story. Like Omid, you're with them for a few months. Omid dies by just a random girl trying to find food. Not a good character in my eyes anyways. You're with Krista for the most part, and as y'all watching now, we get raided by raiders. They end up like trying to pretty much kill Krista, so I give her a way out, but they don't really tell you what happens after, so I'm not for sure if she lives or she dies. So after that, you escape the attackers as you watch her now, and eventually you end up almost dying because you get bit by a dog because you're looking for food, and this group saves you, so you end up finding a new group. Rebecca, Luke, Pete, Alvin, Carlos, Sarah, I believe, and they believe it's a zombie bite when they find you. So what they do is they stick you in the shed, which that's kind of messed up. You're 11. You're freaking 11, by the way. So they ain't care. You taking L's anyways. You go into their house and you get the tools you need or whatever, and then you go back to the shed where you almost get killed, and they figure out that it's not a zombie bite, but it gives them more or less to trust you, because now you're in this new group and now they gotta trust you and all this stuff. Anyways, push comes to shove, not everybody in the group's gonna like you. Rebecca's pregnant, so I ain't gonna say woman problems, but man, she takes every chance she can get to just doodle on you. Like, does not care whatsoever. And eventually you have to go with Pete and Nick and fish for food with them, and we find out that the raiders like kill more people or whatever, and pretty much you get overrun by zombies, and you have to pick or choose who you want. I've done both ways already, so it's kind of like it don't matter, and I'm gonna tell you why further on in the video, why that choice just doesn't matter. But I honestly gotta say, it started off very well with how they implicated Clementine into this, because she doesn't have no Lee no more, no Kenny, so it's more like she has no protectors. She more or less has to protect herself and find her way out in the new world without getting help from pretty much an adult. Even though she doesn't really stay alone for very long after losing Krista, it really shows like how much time has passed and what she has learned from everybody is what I'm getting from this. So I think that's really good, but other than that, the story started off alright to me. Could have been a little bit better, but I very much enjoyed how they do this, and the new group so far ain't really bad. But y'all, let's get ready to move on to episode 2.
So I'm back here with episode 2, and what I forgot to mention from the last episode is the group that I met, they're being chased by someone. And they pretty much came by the house where everyone went to go look for Pete, and I had to stay with, look for Pete and Nick. Well, look for Nick, where I had to stay with Sarah. And we ended up going on a run. And we ended up going across the bridge and killing some dude, which ended up being crazy. But second episode was pretty nice because I met my boy Kenny again. So Kenny rejoins the story after originally thinking that he died. And I played it different ways in the first one. And there was one way where I thought there was in no way he survived, but somehow he found the way to survive and make it into this game. So we're pretty much now at this cabin with Kenny and his group. He had like a group of 4, but we ended up killing a dude because Nick starts to like lose his mind after we discovered that Pete dies, and we didn't save him after we got raided in the first episode. So yeah, Nick kind of goes loses his head or whatever. So we regroup so I finally regroup back up for Kenny, and pretty much he was surprised to see me alive or whatever. But Kenny has a new wife. Like Kenny's family dies in the first one, so I'm kind of like, okay. But Kenny ain't really the same old Kenny. Like he's got screws like loose, and he displays it very early. But Kenny the boy, but like we pretty much end up telling his friend that I can't think of that dude's name, by the way. This dude with this red jacket. I don't know this man's name. Like I can't remember for the life of me. But yeah, pretty much we end up telling him that we shot his friend. I think they were friends. They seemed more than that the way he was crying, honestly. But yeah, we pretty much kill his friend. We tell him that it was an accident or whatever. And right before we did that, we started having like zombies pull up because of like the wind turbine was too loud or whatever. So after we, kind of got that under control, the dude who I ran into when we were at the cabin in the first episode, what's his name? Carver, he ends up finding us. And the group that I'm with, they have, past history with this man. So when he ends up finding us, he ends up, putting us one by one, setting us up to be killed. Now, me, Alvin, and Rebecca kind of like hid or whatever. So, Carver is actually there because what I told you with Rebecca being pregnant in the first episode, it's Carver's child. But, Rebecca's with Alvin now. So that's like a whole little situation going on within its own. But Carver wants to get his people back. They ain't want to go. He dangerous. So I can see why they didn't go back. But, once we get caught or whatever, it was either we go in there and help our friends who were captured, or we just let them die. Since we take too long to go in there, the dude with the red shirt, Kenny's boy or whatever, he straight up dies, bro. Like blank, put the blicky to his head, bro. So I'm just like, that's crazy. But other than that, at the end of this episode, we get captured. So until then, let's move on to episode 3. All right, so for episode 3, we get captured by Carver, and I'm gonna keep this episode short, simple, and to the point. We pretty much just find a way to escape his, outpost or whatever. He's just a dick. Ain't really much to say about it necessarily, but like I said, we're just pretty much here to escape. So you meet one of the dudes who helped the group that I know escape the first time or whatever, and his arm's like cut off. He ends up dying. We get walkie-talkies. Like, there's not much to say about this episode. We're literally just captured the entire episode until we break free, necessarily. And I mean, like, it has some good parts. Like, we end up meeting the black dude. I can't think of his name. I'm sorry, I had to describe him by color. And Jane, who looks like an absolute bum, but, it is a zombie apocalypse. And then we also get Bonnie, who's inside his group, to turn. You can get her to turn. So, like, this episode ain't too bad, but other than that, you get to watch what you watching now. Kenny gets the absolute dog shit beat out of him. Like, man, that boy took an L. Yeah, Luke ends up getting caught at the, he wasn't in the raid part. He wasn't in the part in the cabin where we got captured, but he tried to help us. He ends up getting caught or whatever, and Yeah, pretty much this episode was just basically escaping, and we end up killing Carver. I could have watched because my boy Kenny, like I told you, he got a screw loose. So you already know what went down. My boy Kenny was like, "You beat me up, I beat you up." My boy Kenny beat him to death. Like, what's up, my boy? But other than that, when we're escaping, we pretty much get put in like a situation where there's a bunch of zombies, and the only way to escape is to smear the zombie blood and guts all over yourself and walk through the horde. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode. I mean, I know I didn't really go too much into detail. I'm just not a fan of this episode. I like how they went about it. I just wasn't a fan of it. Like, I just didn't care for it. I mean, like, other than that, like, Alvin doesn't come with us because he gets beat up by Carver like the whole time we're there, and Carver pretty much kills him. So yeah, when we escaped, Alvin helps us escape. He gets shot with what little life he had left. I mean, there's nothing much to this episode. I'm sorry, y'all, but I'm not, like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of this episode. I felt like that they kind of just didn't really care for it like that. But let's get ready to move on to episode 4. So in episode 4, after finally escaping the horde, Sharita gets bit, and pretty much we all got a vantage point to meet up at. But during, everything happening, we ended up getting separated after we finally leave Carver's place, and that got overran. I end up going with Rebecca and Jane, and that's when we end up meeting up with the others. Some of the others had already been there, like Bonnie. I think that black dude name was Mike. Actually, finally starting to remember his name is crazy, bro. But Kenny was pretty pissed at me when he got there too, because apparently he blamed me for letting Sharita get bit. There's another version of it where you can just straight up cut her arm off and she screams to death and then just gets ate up. But like, yeah. That being said, no matter what you do, Kenny's gonna be mad at you for a little bit. This episode, I believe, was a little bit better because Jane actually opens up and tells her story. We start to understand her as a character better. There's a reason why Jane quickly flew right back under the list for me, because of, I gotta wait till the next video to actually tell y'all why she really pisses me off with what she did. But yeah, in this one I saved Sarah. You can let her die, really, because I let her die the first time. But pretty much we had to go save them because we didn't know where Luke and Sarah was. Luke, Sarah, and Nick, and we had to go find them. We did end up finding them. They were trapped. Like, Sarah was still pretty messed up after her dad dies. Oh yeah, I forgot. Her dad dies during the horde because that was important, I guess. Not a good character. All he cared about, "No, please protect my daughter. Please make sure my daughter is safe." Like, bro, that is your job. That is not my job. The fact that everybody sits there and listens to like an 11-year-old girl in this episode is crazy. But other than that, you try to get Kenny to stop being mad at you. Rebecca her water ends up breaking. Crazy. We get overran, and then we find this, I don't want to call it a shack, but it's like this high up. I forgot what it was called. They told me what it was, but it was pretty much high up where the zombies had a harder time getting to you whatsoever. So we all pretty much got there and ran there, and Rebecca pretty much ended up having her baby there, which in the end, it's not good because you end up losing. If you have Sarah with you in this episode, spoiler alert, she ends up dying. Like, you can't save her. She ends up, the balcony ends up breaking and she ends up falling, and you try to tell Jane to save her, and Jane doesn't save her in time, so she dies. Like, you might as well just leave her in the last episode to die. Oh, you might as well leave her in the beginning of this episode to die, because you do have to get her in the beginning of this episode. But you can let her live, but she ain't gonna make it past the episode. She's gonna die regardless. But didn't care. She wasn't a good character anyway. She was bad. Like, I understand what they were going for, and it was nice, but not a good character. But other than that, yeah, pretty much she has her Rebecca has her baby. Jane can't take being here with the group anymore, so she pretty much ups and dips. Oh yeah, and Luke and Jane decided to get it on, during the zombie apocalypse, and it's one of the reasons why we started to get overran where we are currently looking at where we're at now, because they decided to get their freak on and say fuck the rest of us, bro. So you know what I'm saying, but this episode wasn't bad. After that, we pretty much got up and left. So, y'all, let's get ready to move on to the final episode. So, in the last episode, it's pretty sad. So in the episode before, you and Jane, you're trying to get the little place open so Rebecca could have her baby, and you run into this dude named Arvalo. You can decide to take his bag, which has medicine and stuff in it, or whatever. If you do or don't, it really doesn't matter, because in the next episode, you start off with Arvalo trying to kill you, because you run into him again, and it's winter, and pretty much Rebecca dies. It's too cold, and she didn't have time to recover after just having the baby. So you pretty much get held up at gunpoint, and you deal with that. After stopping Arvalo, Kenny kind of just shits on him like the whole time, which I don't blame him for. He almost tried to get us killed, but Jane comes back, tries to help us, in the best way she can, but we pretty much lose the group because Arvalo says he has this place for us, and we pretty much have a choice to trust him because we need food for AJ. And pretty much after that, it just gets all downhill from there. We're not really a really trustworthy group. Arvalo lost his sister, even though he's not even part of the group. But we pretty much go across this ice, end up losing Luke, and I tried to save him or whatever. And then pretty much after that, the group just doesn't trust Kenny no more because, his screw's just too loose for them after this. So they end up leaving, and when they do, I end up trying to stop them, and Arvalo shoots me. So I wake up, trying to catch my bearings. I get to see Lee again. So, that was a throwback to the first episode, which is absolutely beautiful. I don't care if nobody says. And, after that, Jane decides, after we got into a car crash and after they got through arguing, as y'all watching now, Jane decides to provoke this man. This man has screws loose, and she's like, hey, let me tell him that the baby's dead so you can see how much of a monster he is. Yeah, I think that'd make anybody a monster. What type of world do you think y'all are living in? So honestly, wasn't a really smart decision for Jane to do what she did or whatever. So I had to do what I had to do. I've done it both ways. And like I said before, I'm gonna tell y'all why I decided to not save Jane, because Jane does some stuff I really don't like in the next season of this game. So all in all, this game, it was pretty well done. We had some shit characters, don't get me wrong. They didn't have like characters like the first one. They made you connect with all the first characters, and that's kind of what I liked about season 1. It's not that they didn't do that in season 2. It's just that some of the characters' background stories you do not give a fuck about. You're gonna be like, okay, I care about your story, and then they go and do this, that, and the third, and then they die, bro. And I'm just like, bro, what was the point of you telling me your story? So I decided to save my boy Kenny. Kenny been there since day one, but in the end, we end up finding a place called Wellington, which I've actually forgot to tell you guys is where we've been trying to go the whole time. He wanted to go up north because everybody been talking about this place called Wellington, which was doing so well and could take anybody in. We actually finally get there, and Wellington was like, hey, yeah, we kind of overstocked with people. So, yeah. But Kenny told us to go in and to leave him behind, which I did, but I kind of didn't want to. I kind of want to know what happens when you don't leave him behind. But all in all, like I said, if I had to do it, the final verdict for this game is an 8 out of 10, bro. Like, come on, bro. Y'all thought I was going to give it a bad rating? It's too good, bro. They did their job in this game. I'm going to get that 8 out of 10, y'all. But as y'all let y'all know, the story continues. So until next time, I'm out.